Storm Runner is Hersheypark's fast-paced hydraulic launch coaster located in the back of Hersheypark. It was built by Intamin, opened in 2004, and probably has one of the most unconventional layouts out there, especially for a launch coaster. You have some Intamins that go up, just come back down. Others feature a more complete layout. Storm Runner is there in between. There's kind of two main moments that come after that top hat, neither of which can be found on any other ride. So that automatically makes this super unique. It's an excellent roller coaster, so let's dive right in. Now, those of you who are familiar with this ride probably know it by the signature voice that says, "Now get ready, here we go," right before you launch 0 to 72 miles per hour in 2 seconds. That's the signature moment of Storm Runner. It's one of the quickest launches out there, especially when you break it down by just how fast you go in that short amount of time. That's roughly 36 miles per hour per second. And if you've done other hydraulic launch coasters such as Top Thrill Dragster, King to Ka, Stealth, Accelerator, you know just how powerful these moments can be. And Storm Runner's launch really is one of the best. Because it reaches that speed in only 2 seconds, it is over pretty quick, I'll say that, but it's so punchy, you're going to get off this thing and immediately want to do it again. But I think most importantly, I like that Storm Runner is not a one-trick pony. It's not a gimmick ride, which when you look at rides like Stealth or Top Thrill Dragster or whatever, yeah, you can look at those as gimmicks. So even though Storm Runner isn't the longest ride, it's over in less than a minute, it still feels complete. After that launch, you soar up into a 150-foot tall top hat featuring a 180-foot tall vertical drop. And this is one of those elements that you can see from just about anywhere in the park. I love Hersheypark's use of terrain. The way that they fit in this element and just this entire layout as a whole is very impressive. And on top of that, you get some great airtime going over this thing. Storm Runner is one of those rides that I recommend riding more than once, especially in the front seat and the back. You experience airtime in different ways with that element, but I would say that this is not an airtime focused experience. I would say there's actually more inversions than airtime moments. Technically on Storm Runner, you go upside down 3 times, and the top hat is pretty much the only airtime spot on this roller coaster, although when you do crest up into the flying snake dive, in the front seat you do get a little pop there. But this drop is super fun. It's actually pretty forceful there in that valley. I gray out a little bit at the bottom right before you fly up into what is called the Cobra Loop. It stands 135 foot tall, and to quote the coaster parody, it basically feels like an Immelman, a deformed Immelman. I don't know why they chose to call it a Cobra Loop, but you kind of stall up there at the top, the slightest little bit of hang time before you kind of bank to the side and twist out. And that's when you get to the flying snake dive. And I gotta say, I think this is my favorite part of Storm Runner just because of how quirky and cool it is. It's essentially 2 different moments put together. You have the heartline roll and then the actual flying snake dive, but they act as one moment because you start to rotate to the right into the heartline roll, and then you keep rotating as you drop down to the ground. I think part of what makes this element so cool is just how off the ground you are. Even when you're standing off to the side looking up at this thing, it's just very funky looking. You do take it at a pretty good pace, so I wouldn't say there's any moments for hang time there, but I appreciate how much you whip from the heartline roll into that flying snake dive. It's a great transition. And then you get into the last section of the ride, which is a little funky. Storm Runner throws in 2 little back and forths. You pass over the river underneath the monorail, twist to the right and then to the left, and that's when you hit the brakes. But these aren't crazy sharp overbank turns like you'd see on some RMCs or even other Intamins. This is just a quick side to side. There's a very bizarre ending to this very bizarre ride. But it's fun, and that's the bottom line here. Even though it's weird, I have a lot of appreciation for each of these moments because when you put it all together, you come out with a really cool ride experience. Would it have been nice if Storm Runner was a bit longer, featured in another cool moment? I mean, yeah. But when you hit the brake run, I wasn't thinking to myself, wow, that's it. It delivered from start to finish. One other thing I'll mention before we get into the final score, if I had a complaint, I would say I really do feel like you could do this exact same layout and ride experience with a lap bar instead of over the shoulder harness. And I know that this ride's been out for a bit. It's over 15 years old. So maybe at the time that it came out, they needed that shoulder harness. Originally, it actually featured that hard plastic. Now it's that soft shell, kind of like Maverick or Intimidator with Hero 5. So that makes it very comfortable. So I wouldn't say that the ride experience is negatively affected because of the shoulder harness. But imagine going through some of these moments with a lap bar. And I know that Intamin nowadays could do it. I just think that'd be a really cool way to experience this coaster. But anyways, for Storm Runner's final score, I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. It's probably my second favorite coaster at Hersheypark, right behind Skyrush. It's got very bizarre pacing, which I don't say in a negative way. I say actually in a pretty cool way, just because at the end of the day, I like those rides that are very memorable. And because of how weird Storm Runner is, I love getting back on this thing. It's got the perfect amount of intensity. Each element stands on its own, but is tied together in a way that makes everything so fluid. I definitely recommend coming out to Hersheypark to give it a try. So I want to hear from you guys down in the comments below. below. What do you think of Storm Runner? Do you agree with my thoughts? And of course, stay tuned for more coaster reviews here at Coaster Studios, and we'll see you next time.